Our next session promises to be a laugh riot. Our speaker is an advertising giant, a man of vivid and somewhat wild ideas who continues to inspire creators across all ages. It's none other than Prahlad Kakar, who is in conversation with radio icon Sarthak Kaushik, where he talks about his memoir, Adman Madman.
The first came the word, then it became a sentence, and then paragraphs, and then chapters, and then there's the book. And this World Book Day, the book of life that opened itself out to us is that of the venerable Mr. Prahlad Kakar, the man who's decided to call his book Adman Madman, which I think unapologetically Prahlad. I don't think apologies have ever been a part of Prahlad Kakar's life. But, first of all, of course, from a lifetime fan of your work, the objective interviewer can come later, but it is such an honor to be sitting across a lease line from you and talking to you about the life that you have lived so loudly and so proudly. It's wonderful. Thank you very much for this.
You're welcome. But it is a life that I'd much rather live all over again without having to write it down.
Yeah, sometimes the written word can bring back memories, but memories are, I'm sure, always welcome, especially if they include the first kiss where teeth and noses are involved, and and the breadth of your love, from that awkward first kiss to the passionate love affairs that you have with cooking, with the creative arts, with opening cafes that are absolutely incredible. I mean, it's been quite the life. But do you have like a little black diary where you have it all written down? They were quite precise, all of these incidents, Prahlad sir.
No, my long-term memory is luckily enough absolutely bang on. It's my short-term memory I forget people's names. So,
but the names, of course, are big ones. I mean, first, of course, the book is just so full of that breadth of emotion that I spoke about. That absolutely fantastic episode of you finally getting to. I don't think seduction is the right word, but to get your first intimate moments with with an older girl, and then dropping her chivalrously home, and then running away because you were being shot at.
yes. And the difference between when the shot went over my head, then I realized the difference between incoming rounds and outgoing rounds.
Yeah. And I'm sure, these early signs of the deadlines whooshing by must have been very exciting as well.
No, firstly, it was highly disappointing because it wasn't like the movies at all. Because the only experience of kissing and holding hands and doing whatever is always a crescendo of music. And in real life, you have to orchestrate the music yourself. And you have to be a little more adept at making sure that your nose doesn't get in the way, and that your teeth are not banging against each other, and that you're holding your breath and wondering whether your eyes should be shut or whether your eyes should be open. Yeah. And then after a while getting restless and opening your eyes and looking around, saying, nothing's happening here.
But from that first awkward sweetness to the discordant notes that life throws at you, which is what you so poignantly described in your first failure at school, where you actually curled up outside your principal's veranda because you couldn't muster up courage to go back to a home full of doctors and army generals and tell them that you had failed. Yes. But you took to failure quite easily, didn't you?
No, after the first time, it's like murder. It's the first time that is difficult.
There's also the whole boxing episode that you so beautifully described, that the fetching part of reading Adman Madman is the fact that you're just so open about the fact that you stepped into the ring scared for your life, and then it was only fear that kept you there, and you couldn't truly enjoy it because most of the time that you were being successful in the boxing ring, you were actually trying to save your whole life. So,
right. More than anything else. And I had to become a good boxer to be able to survive a beating.
For sure. Then, of course, the beautiful learnings of the bush commercials that you had described so beautifully, where after resounding success of one campaign, the second campaign fell flat because you forgot to read the newspaper. Yes.
Yes. And I realized that the best education after education is actually watching the world and reading the news. Because at least in my time, the newspaper was sacrosanct. I mean, you never doubted its truth. Today, there's so much misinformation, even among established brands of newspapers. You never know who's pro-government, who's anti-government, who's just saying things for the sake of saying things. At my time, it was very simple. That this is the fact and this is what has happened. But to keep yourself aware and abreast of current affairs is, I think, the most important lesson in life, so that you don't come out looking like an idiot in a public debate. At least you have an opinion, you have a point of view, right or wrong.
And
But
you've always had a point of view. You've had very strong points of view, and you are just such a glowing example of this and that, and the pride with which you describe it, being looking like a nerd but being extremely good at gymnastics,
yes,
and then of course that absolutely priceless lesson that you gave all of us about how to lose in football so that you could win at being a teacher's pet. That was phenomenal. I mean, we forget that losing is sometimes just such a wonderful thing to do. No.
no, especially when it's in your control,
Yeah.
then you realize for yourself that actually you haven't lost. Actually, you won.
Absolutely.
And you're laughing all the way to the bank. So the hypocrisy of the society that we live in, where we place such a lot of importance to stupid things like "Main jeeta tu hara." It doesn't really matter in the long run. In the long run, what matters is that have you achieved what you started off wanting to achieve. And at the beginning of your life as a child and as in school, and especially in a boys' school and then a military boys' school, which is all about being tough and having hair on your chest, it's more about survival than anything else. Only success comes later once you learn to survive. So survival becomes your raison d'etre for your entire life, because your childhood and your growing up years are based constantly on the references that you keep going back to.
Sure. There's also the beauty of the way that you describe mistakes. I think what I took back out of it, and this is entirely personal, of course, is the fact that there was a luxury of making mistakes where we could actually get up and dust our knees and go ahead. Do you think we are increasingly becoming afraid of making mistakes, which is making us a little hamstrung in our ideas, Prahlad sir? You think?
No. See, the stigma of failure has always been a part of Indian growing up, because we were such, the parents, what they failed in, they expected their children to deliver. So the expectation pressure level is so high in Indian families, where especially with parents who have had ambitions which were not arrived at. So they try and live through their children, and they put the pressure back on the children. And I've always maintained that, see, if you work with passion, then you're learning every day of your life. But if you're doing things by rote, then you stop learning very early in your career, because you become very tunnel vision. So when you learn every day of your life, it's an adventure. It's no longer only fear that drives you. Fear drives you, definitely. But fear is a great motivator, by the way. We don't need to realize that we are in denial of it. We hate admitting that we are afraid. We hate admitting that we don't know. We hate admitting that it's better to cheat and get away with it than to actually fail and get up and do it all over again. So there's a moral compass which has suddenly gone wonky in this country. And it's becoming worse, not better.
Sure, sure. There's also, talking of moral compass, playing this advocate, you make cigars, but you resolutely refuse to do tobacco ads, even though there was the whole charms, the filterless cigarettes
Correct.
that had come in. And it's okay to evolve, is it not? I mean, it's okay to learn
It's
from
okay
mistakes.
to evolve because to me, my justification was I enjoyed cigars. And
Sure.
my justification was that I couldn't afford cigars.
Okay.
So I started making my own cigars. So I had them rolled in the Philippines. I selected the tobaccos from all over the world with my blender. And Pranan said, okay, these are my cigars.
Sure.
And we named the cigar after one of my greatest passions, is the horses. And the cigar was named Shergar. So if you remember current affairs and news, about 20 years ago, a stallion called Shergar, which belonged to the Aga Khan and was standing in stud in Ireland, was kidnapped by the IRA and held for ransom. And they never found him. So Shergar in Persian means heart of a lion.
That's brilliant.
So we named the cigar Shergar.
The other thing that struck me when I was reading the book was the scale of the work that you had done. Everything from the daring Kama Sutra ads to what you so beautifully described that we called it the zing thing, but it became the jing thing in the
jing thing, yes, because nobody in hinterland India ever said zing. They said jing.
But we're living in a world where everything has sort of shrunk down to the 6.5 inches of the mobile screen. But you understood scale like few others actually in the making of what you did, as you did intimacy as well. But do you think that the way media is consumed today, you think the scale has changed, the way scale is seen has changed because we are looking at it a little smaller? The wow factor of the scale?
No, we've now developed a technology on how to shoot narrative for the small film, but not for scale. I grew up at the time when there was Quo Vadis and 10 Commandments and, those kind of films. So those had huge influence in me because the 70 mm screen and there was huge theatre, no surround sound at that time, or no surround picture. But the scale was incredible. And all the directors were known or unknown because of the scale. The first film that actually was made for the television format, and not even a phone, was called Clute. If you remember the film Clute, it was meant for television. It was all done in medium and close-ups. And it made quite an impact on us because we suddenly realized, hello, we are not dealing with completely different animals. And that intimacy and not scale was going to be the future. And so we started practicing that methodology. Of course, the methodology went completely haywire. And right now, what has happened with media, consumption especially, and entertainment, is that it's a consumable, it is forgettable. Nothing arrests you to a degree where you go back and regurgitate it and think about it.
Do you also think?
And also the fact that you want to go back and remember it for how you would have done it.
Yeah.
So there's always, the best part of creative media is that's an evolving, growing thing. And if you just consume it because you're a consumer and not a creator, then you miss out half the joy of it. which is you have to constantly put your opinion with the director and see his opinion and see whether you could actually improve it or not, or have the audaciousness to say, I can do better.
And that's the thing I want to ask you, Prahlad sir. I mean, the audacity, as you said. I mean, is it that we are losing out on truly memorable media or creation because we're trying to be everything to everyone as far as advertising is concerned? I mean, there was a time when cars would say "men are back" and there would be no problem because there was no. I mean, probably permissive times, but "Ye bullet meri jaan." And men are, we still hark back to them because they had a statement to make, even though it was treading a sort of a line.
It was a very directorial vision. And that is what differentiated one director from another director. Because we did an exercise once for the Film Institute kids about the fact that they used to dish advertise. And I gave them an exercise to do it. I took 10 films of the top 10 directors, advertising film directors, and ran it for them blind. I said, this is a production house. We don't know anything about the production house. This is their work. Now, I want you to psychoanalyze the man behind the work. Is he a man? Is he a woman? If he's a woman, is he westernized? Is he non-westernized? Or is she? And in what way do they favor certain colors? And what way do they favor certain castings? And what way is the film texturized? Now, it was amazing, but I got pinned off salads in my class in the film institute. We were all leftist leading and dished advertising all the time. Because I knew that I was in for scathing. That the only reason I had attended that particular class was so they could bajao my band. And they were so mesmerized by the deductions that they came to through a body of work, to the accuracy level of sex, which is were they female or were they male. So that's when authorship came in. Because every director had a style of narration, which was very much his own. And you could recognize the work because in advertising, they never gave credit. So you didn't know whose work it was. But over a period of time, people started identifying my work with a certain kind of humor, with a certain degree of irreverence, with a certain breaking of and bending of rules, and so forth and so on. So anything that even struck as a holy cow in my profession, I would go out of my way to try and break it. For the sheer pleasure of getting away with it.
But do you think you would be able to do it now?
Of course. Because I'm completely untouched by mass thinking.
But do you think there's still the kind of elbow room that you had made for yourself? I mean, you really had to push and shove, no? I mean, at that point of time, as you said,
Of course. I teach all my kids. So see, there's a client's point of view where his entire focus is limited to his brand. And there's a filmmaker point of view where you effectively deliver the brand without being obvious. Okay, now there are two parts of the world which don't coexist. There's the client's way and there's your way. So either you sit and argue with the client and lose the job, or shoot it both ways. So I had to shoot my earlier film twice. Their way, as per the bond, and my way, as to how I wanted the narration to travel, how much I wanted to control the narration. And that, to me, impact was always far more important than brand space. It's not how many times you repeat your brand that it makes it memorable. It's how you how you embed it into your narrative that actually gives you the impact.
But it's a fine line, is it not, Prahlad sir? I mean, there have been
No,
examples
but
where...
you have to be very, very strong about your opinion. And
But
I
you know,
say that I've learned the hard knocks, school of hard knocks from Shyam Benegal. Okay. And here's the little lallu who come from some MBA like Ahmedabad and trying to teach me how to make a film. just because he's playing the fiddler, so doesn't mean that he has to compose the tune.
But
So,
there's a bit of a Prahlad sir, there's a bit of a fine line there, isn't it? I mean, creativity is a bit of a double-edged sword. No, you become too creative and the product becomes secondary. No,
no,
sometimes,
never.
no.
What we were taught in Shyam Benegal's hard knock of filmmaking was the brand is the hero, always and every time. But you have to have an interesting enough narrative around the brand for you to engage with the brand. If the brand is an inert object, like a bottle of water called Bisleri, and it has no personality, it has no person living inside that bottle of water, then how are you going to be consistent about the character of the brand? Is he compassionate? Is he big-hearted? Is he generous? Is he kind? Is he courageous? It's a person. The brand is a living, breathing person. It's not an inanimate object. And these schools forget that. That a brand is not a name with rhymes.
Yeah.
A brand is a person who you can see because he manifests himself in the narration.
And I think also, the way Ogilvy put it, good advertising makes a bad product fail faster. So you have to have a...
actually, when your product doesn't deliver and you eulogize it to the sky, then automatically the sampling will be far greater because your advertising is desirable. And so more people try it initially from launch time. And the more people who try it and are disappointed in the product, the faster the product sells.
Was there ever a time when, were there ever things that you thought, oh, I should have done this better? Is there a little regret for them?
Every single time to date.
Yeah. Is there one that still makes you go, like that?
Lots of times. And we learned the fine art of lying, which advertising is famous for. And what we lied about was that this isn't our. So because there were no credits on any of that film, we could be totally in denial. कि हमारी फिल्म ही नहीं है यार, client की film. So I realized that after about cringing in front of the box or in a movie theater, every piece of shit work that you did, you suddenly went numb. Okay, and you went numb and you denied hopefully that you had anything to do with it. And after about the 500th time of denial, you believed it. So I could go through a lie detector test and you would never catch me because I believed it was my film.
Ethics is always ethics has been a bit of a gray area for you always. No, it's not black and white for you, is it, Prahlad sir?
No, it can't be because ethics changes with survival. And firstly, most importantly, you don't live in a society of judgment. You live in a society where you hate yourself first. And if what you have produced is unacceptable, you deny it.
The Prahlad Kakar School of Philosophy is a wonderful, wonderful one to be an acolyte of. I'm beginning to understand. Prahlad sir, also, I was interviewing this band called Strings, which had started in the analog era, so to speak, and they'd recently, released a song. They released an album which they were releasing song by song on the internet. So,
Right.
I asked them that you come from a time where everything was recorded on tape and spool,
Right.
and now everything is the internet. So they said something very interesting. They said when we started, music was a push medium where you had to push it to a television, a radio, a magazine, and maybe one or two more places.
Right.
Now it's become a pull medium where there are so many avenues of consuming music that you have
Correct.
to pull your audiences in. Do you think that's true for advertising as well now?
Totally. And the reason why mediocrity has set in the whole business of advertising is because the suits, like at the MBAs, have only learned one thing in B school. And that is, if you have a gut reaction, take a Burgundy. Now, if you spend 4 years or 5 years just learning this one addendum to stay out of trouble, to keep below the radar. So neither somebody can judge you, nor can take credit for it, nor can do anything. It's only when it's hugely successful that you jump out of the woodwork and say it's mine. But you never take the good and the bad together.
Sure.
Because people have forgotten to judge their own work. And part of it is because of our education system. Because the moral north has shifted totally. So you lift, you copy, you pretend it's not yours, you pretend it's yours. But everything goes as long as you get away with it. And the problem with creativity today is because everybody thinks that they can be a filmmaker because you've got a phone in your hand. Makes you accessible to being a filmmaker because it has a camera on it. So every client worth his MBA certificate thinks that मैं भी कर सकता हूँ और मेरे से अच्छा तो मेरी बीवी कर सकती है.
But do you think the way, I mean, because of this whole push and pull, do you think the way creativity is being looked at is changing as well? You think I come back to the scale bit of it as well?
See, I got away with it because people expected it of me after a while because I had a reputation. So I used my reputation to get the latitude to be able to do what I wanted.
But was that a pressure by itself, in and of itself, considering that people always had these expectations?
No. The people always knew success because it worked. People did not have any respect for failure.
But the seduction of success, sir. I mean, the fact that once you've done it, it's become successful, so you do it again, which is what we're seeing now, which is, as you said, the copying bit, the rehashing bit, etc.
No, that's because everybody become lazy, huh? And it's like instant food. You don't have to masticate it. You don't have to chew it. You don't have to digest it. You don't have to think about it. You consume it and spit it out. So everything in media has become so transitory that the line between so-called success and lack of success is just a budget.
But does memorability have something to do with it, sir? You think?
So you pound somebody with the same message again and again, however crashingly boring you are. People remember. Even if they have to turn and say, please stop. I promise you, I remember your brand.
And of course, the other way to do it is to do something that makes people go, oh, kya kar raha hai? Which is what you did with
Or kya kar raha hai? Yeah, or saying, what guts. Because that fires your imagination. Because see, the creative process is not a one-stop end. The creative process is only the beginning. To be able to fire your imagination into reliving that moment in your own way. And how many people connect with it and how many people don't. And that is advertising real success and failure. Is what is your connectivity with your consumer? How much does he identify with you? And even if he doesn't identify with you, how much does he emphasize it? And I
How did
found,
that work for the Kama Sutra ad, sir?
well, it worked because everybody's desire was to make love to a beautiful woman with a great tasting condom. Now, can't connect the dots. A beautiful woman on one pedestal, and what does a condom taste like on another pedestal? And where do the twain join?
In a book called Adman Madman, unapologetically Prahlad. Uh, were there things that you left out in the book, sir? I mean, were there things that
Lots.
you? Yeah.
Lots. I want to do a sequel of all the chapters that my wife and my co-writer, Rupangi Sharma, censored her. For no rhyme or
But
reason.
why? What was the censorship?
Because there were female laborers there.
Is it a sign of the times? Prahlad sir, but you're giving in. I mean, the thing is not about them being liberals or them censoring, but the thing is about the great Prahlad Kakar giving in, actually. Or is it that you're holding back?
Listen, if you're married for 35 years to the same woman, okay, then the only survival methodology is to cave in.
No,
you put up a token resistance and then very gracefully retire from the battlefield.
I have a feeling, Prahlad sir, that you're saying exactly what you're saying because this is the way that you just told us to disown things. There was a little bit of a fear where you didn't want to put things in, and now you're saying, no, my wife made me do it. No, it's the wife made me do it. No,
wife didn't make me do it. She convinced me under great threat of what she felt was the right way and the wrong way.
But Prahlad Kakar has always lived between the right way and the wrong way. No, it's never the black and the whites. Your work has been grey.
No, but you see, the grey area is very important. You must know which battles to win, and you know which battles are non-significant. It's not important.
I think, would you agree that we're forgetting that life can be this and that, as you said? I mean, throughout your life, you said you look like a nerd, but you were good at sports. You look like a nerd, but you never were very good at studies. You went out and did things that were completely polar opposites of what it could be, showing very loudly and proudly that you could be this and that. But we are living in a world increasingly where everything is becoming...
That's exactly it. People turn and tell me that after reading my book, how can one person live so many lives and live under so many hats? So I told them very simply, it's like this. If you are polygamous, like most men are, and you have a choice of 5 beautiful women and say, choose, why should you? Take the lot. And the hell that society says that this is wrong and this is right. Who are they to say this is wrong and this is right? You can get away with it, you can get away with it. So my first lesson in polygamy was that I had 3 girlfriends in college at the same time, and none of them knew about each other. Until one day, they all landed up at a party without my knowing that they were going to land up there. And inadvertently, they met. And then they decided on the revenge of the women. And they taught me such a lesson that I decided never to lie to a woman about sharing her with somebody else.
Yeah.
I said, there is the trap. It looks so low-hanging and attractive to want to get away with it. But it's not possible. The law of averages always gets you caught. So it's better to come clean right in the beginning and say, listen, this is the way it is. And they said, no, I refuse to share you with anybody else. I said, look at it this way. When I'm not with you, okay, I'm not with you. You are fantasizing that I'm still with you. But that's a fantasy. So, but when I'm with you, I'm 100% with you. Then there's no quibbling.
But do you think there's a loss of focus as well? Considering that, all the passion is supposed to consume, as we are told, passion is its own punishment. But 5 times the punishment, you think that the focus of the true joy of pain is lost because you're distracted in so many ways?
No, I was never distracted. I was very compartmentalist. See, I believe that I was a Japanese samurai sometime
Yeah.
in the 16th century. And that the one thing that the Japanese are different from the rest of the world is they're very compartmentalized. When they're focused on something, they're totally focused. When they're off it, they're off it. So you find a very disciplined Japanese employee focused on a job. He'll come home, gather his friends, and get blotto drunk and abuse his bosses.
Sure. There's, of course, also many lessons that you've learned, and then you've been very enthusiastic in imparting them as well. There's a branding school, there's restaurants, etc. Is it as much fun teaching as it is learning? Because we've been told that those who can do, those who can't teach.
No, everything is a learning which is new to you, but it's passionate. So our first restaurant was in my office because we ran a kitchen for everybody. And then since we were part of the lunch every day, and it became a part of the culture of the office, we were very particular about what we wanted to eat. So like a friend of mine, when she was being interviewed by one of the weekend newspapers, and said, which is your favorite restaurant in Bombay? And she said, Prahlad Kakar's office. So she said, how is that a restaurant? Yes, firstly, you get great food. Secondly, everybody is into food when they're cooking because they're all focused. And thirdly, you don't have to pay for it.
And these are the wonderful stories that have been, of course, cooked up in the book. Which was the paragraph that you truly tasted while you were writing, Prahlad sir?
Yeah, but that's the whole idea of writing the book as an experiential book and not as a narrative.
Well, is there a particular part of the book that you like a little? I mean, as George Orwell said, all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal than others. So is there a chapter?
Every experience is unique. From the time I survived the huge bosoms of Birgitta, almost asphyxiated myself during Oh Bloody, Oh Blada, I played by the Beatles. So everything was very distinctly underlined. That to my rescue came my swimming coach, who had failed with me because he said, you'll never learn how to do the crawl. So I learned from him that you come up for breath under your armpit. So so she had me in a vice-like grip, with both hands, and she looked like one Viking goddess who was twice as tall as I was, and she had me in this vice-like grip with her nose firmly in her bosom, not being able to breathe. So bang in the middle of the adrenaline kick, thinking this is where I'm going to die, came the coach's strident voice. 3 strokes, breathe under your right armpit. Don't stick your head out of the water. Keep your head inside the water. And I did precisely that and survived.
Was it difficult to survive the tsunami of celebrity that you had unleashed in your advertising career as well? I mean, you were at the cusp of when celebrities were becoming these advertising gods and goddesses as well, wasn't it?
I was a part of that whole process, but
yes,
I had an uncanny instinct, which I always believe in. I believe in the gut. I believe that what makes exceptional advertising animals are gut reactive. They're not research-based. They're not based on your limited knowledge and experience of life. It is your instinct of how you absorb life. that you turn around and say, "No, this is not going to work. This is going to work." And clients will turn around and say, "What is the logic?" I say, "See, your logic is different from my logic. Your logic is mediocre because 2 plus 2 for you is 4, and you're happy with that. I'm unhappy with 2 plus 2 is 4. My logic has to be 22, or I'm not worth it." So obviously there is a huge digression in thought process. You want to play safe, I don't want to play safe. Since I don't want you to pay for my mistakes, I carry the onus of the financial burden of my own mistakes. Never charge you if I'm wrong. But I want the liberty to be able to be wrong.
And were you given that liberty often?
I took it.
What was that you said? It's easier. The first page says it's easier to apologize than to seek permission.
Correct.
But the seduction of celebrity versus the brand being the hero, which is what you just told us a while back, that's a very, very thin line as well, is it not? I mean,
No,
you
it's
already...
not. It's not. There's a lazy way and there's a hard way. Where the story, when a brand is driven by a story, then your celebrity becomes a co-actor. The hero is always the brand. And the story...
But was that a problem? Was that a problem with celebrity?
No, not in the beginning, because they were just visual. They were paying shitloads of money for not doing nothing.
I tell you, money is always the hero, is it not, Prahlad?
Yeah. So what used to happen was that the part that I did not want to play of the narrative of the client, I had to shoot his way. And then I kept half a day to shoot in my way. And then I showed them both versions. First their version, and I could see the discomfort because it wasn't working. Even clients with very few instincts know when something is not working. Trust me. They look dumb, but they're not. Then when they see something is working, they'll ignore it. But when they see something not working, they jump on. And they'll try and take the onus of responsibility away from themselves and put it onto you. So that's fair enough. You don't like what I've done for you because this is what you insisted on, if you remember, because I've knitted everything. Now I'll show you my version. So I showed them my version. And reluctant as they were, they said, this works. So then I said, you have only one condition. I won't charge you for this version, as long as you don't touch a single comma in it. So there's no third version. Your version versus my version versus an amalgamation of both. It's either my way or your way. But what you paid for is your way. What I paid for is my way.
Probably the only place where the grays didn't work. No, this was all black and white, wasn't it? This conversation.
No, totally. Because I did tell them that if you like it, then why do you want to fiddle with it?
There's also the first, the assistant director on Manthan and Ankur, two of arguably the finest films that we have in our tome. From there to the brevity of 30-second ads or 2 minutes, literally the 2-minute noodles ad, so to speak. I mean, that transition, how did that happen? And what, according to you, are the two differences the differences that you see?
I feel that the contribution of the director is the style of his narrative and the casting. The more spontaneous your cast is, the better the film will go. The less spontaneous it is, the worse it works. So,
excellent.
I think one of our most successful films was for Britannia, where Sunil Allah decided that my youngest son, who was all of 3 years old, was going to be the hero of his brand. And that he would do whatever he wanted. There was no script. So I said, are you mad? I mean, how are we going to make him do anything? He's not going to listen to anybody. So he said, I don't want him to listen to you. I want him to listen to himself. So all you have to, I'll go to pay you enough money to do a 3-day shoot, where all you do is morning till evening, you follow him around with a long leg. And then try and make sense out of what he's doing in hindsight, not by premeditating what you want him to do.
Sure.
They were so successful because everybody who watched those films realized that he was his own law. There were no rules. And we just had to capture the moments where he was so funny. And you knew that he wasn't acting because you couldn't.
Sure.
And every housewife in this country took up that slogan of Britannia Khao, Tanman Jagao. Because it became not a particular brand, it became the master brand for the brand, Britannia. So everybody would turn around and say, we want this, we want to have this child. He's just so spontaneous.
Sure.
So I missed the greatest opportunity of my lifetime at that time. Because I had 3 sons, and luckily all of them looked like my wife and not like me. And I could have put out a small ad saying to all the traditional Marwadi and various other communities who were dying for boys. So I had 3 boys at the trot. Until my wife had given up on me and said, you want to have another boy, you do it with somebody else. So I could have put out a little ad saying, boys guaranteed, good-looking boys even further guaranteed. Please attach photographs for services rendered. If it's a girl, your money back. I'd have been a millionaire.
But the way you described your own son, he's the law unto himself and he has no rules. Probably a great way to describe Prahlad Kakar as well. And we have much greed to talk about, much more, Prahlad sir, but the linear movement of old father time means that one last question, which is, since we're living in the world of listicles, 3 points that you'd like people to remember while they're reading your book. Just 3 points.
Never take yourself seriously. Because the day you take yourself seriously, you stop learning. The need to be irreverent is to actually push the ticket. Because you have to first learn to laugh at yourself before you can laugh at the world. Because if you're only laughing at the world will not accept you. So never sit in judgment of society and people. First, put yourself on the firing line and see what an asshole you are.
A look into the mirror with the venerable Prahlad Kakar. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is called Adman Madman, Unapologetically Prahlad, and is not just, as he said, a book. It's an experience which we all need to go through, even if it be to just know how to look into the mirror and look into the eyes of the person who's looking back. Prahlad Kakar, this has been absolutely, absolutely incredible and such an honor. Thank you so much for your time and for your generosity.
Thank you. To take me back onto a journey which I'd rather not have visited.
Sometimes you got to hold the hand. And if you want to hold a book this World Book Day, 23rd of April, remember, it's called Adman Madman, Unapologetically Prahlad. Turn the pages, see what you learn.
And an addendum to this is that when you experience life, if it is with passion, you're never disappointed. And you'll always reach the level that you deserve because of your commitment and focus. But if you're doing a job for the sake of earning money, it is never enough motivation for you to excel at it.
Leaving you with that food for thought. Chew on that while we say Happy World Book Day. Read a little more. It's nice.
True.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prahlad. This was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.